Hi, welcome to the channel. As you know, I believe there are 7 pillars to a relationship: accountability, character, communication, love, maturity, team dynamics, vulnerability, and the foundation that they rest upon, which is called trust. Today, we're going to talk about the pillar of communication. Stay tuned. What is communication? According to Wikipedia, communication is conveying intended meaning to another through the use of mutually understood signs and semiotic rules. The goal of developing good communication skills is that everyone wants to be heard and understood, including you. Also, the purpose of communication is to initiate some type of response from the person who's listening to the communication. So you're trying to get someone to do something, say something, feel something, or want something with your communication. Some components of good communications are being open-minded, being empathetic, being an active listener, and being respectful. If you're being open-minded with communication, then you understand that your way isn't always the right way, nor is your way the only way. If you listen, you may actually hear a new or a different idea, and that idea may rock your core beliefs. You may get an insight on how the person communicating thinks and how they arrived at their conclusion. The next component of good communication is simply be empathetic. You know how you want to be heard by whomever you talk to. Well, so does everybody else. In relationships, you deserve to be heard, and so do they. You want to be mindful of your level of communication because you're going to communicate differently with children than with teenagers, than with adults, than with employers, than with employees, and with your partner. The next component of good communication skills is you being an active listener. You can learn from anyone, especially if they're in a different generation than yours. So you can learn things from a child, from a teenager, from someone who's more senior than you are. What you have to do, though, is you have to pay attention and you have to listen to learn. You need to ask clarifying questions when something is communicated to you that you truly don't understand or you truly didn't catch. You want to use rephrasing to see if you really understood what the person is communicating to you. So basically, just repeat what they said in your own words to assure them that you understand the message that they told you. Another component of good communication is you have to be respectful. You need to watch your body language. Lean in, nod as they speak. This shows that you care about what they're saying, and it shows that you're interested in what they're saying. You want to respect the speaker because remember, they feel that their message and you are so important. So you want to give them that respect. Also, you want to respect the listener. So if you're trying to communicate, you want to think before you speak. You want to think about whether what you're about to say is going to be helpful or is it going to be harmful. You need to be open, honest, transparent, and you need to be willing to answer questions posed to you. Remember, sometimes the communication doesn't come across quite the way you thought it would. So that other person may be asking clarifying questions to you. You want to be clear and concise in your communication. You don't want to waste anyone's valuable time because you don't want your time wasted. Now, when it comes to conflict, good communication skills will always post you in a win-win situation and not a win-lose situation, which is something that you and your partner should not be dealing with. You want to be careful when you're dealing with someone with bad communication skills because they pretty much are all red flags. So some of them are being closed-minded, having deceptive communication, covert contracts, telepathy, and being disrespectful. So if you're being closed-minded, that means you believe that your way is the only way. And you don't actually listen to learn from someone. You're basically listening to respond to whatever it is they said because you really weren't paying attention anyway. So you don't really care about their thoughts. You don't really care about their opinions. You're just waiting for your chance to either prove them wrong, prove you're right, or push your own agenda over theirs. Once again, this is communication that is not win-win, it is win-lose. The next one is deception. That's where you're using communication for deflection, projection, denial, or flat out telling lies. What projection is you projecting your issues onto the other person instead of talking about the issue at hand. So maybe you don't want to talk about the issue at hand because you're projecting that that other person is treating you as though you're a child. When it comes to deflection, what's going to happen is instead of talking about the issue at hand, you're going to talk about some other issue. Maybe a past issue, maybe an unresolved issue. It's some issue other than the issue right there in the present that you need to deal with. When it comes to denial, you're basically not going to admit that an issue even exists. This can lead to what's called gaslighting because you're going to make your partner believe that there is no issue. When dealing with lies, you may lie about what created the issue. You may also lie about your part in the issue. The whole point of it is you want to not deal with the issue. Another component of bad communication is what's called covert contracts. Covert stands for hidden. So what happens is that you have a hidden expectation of someone else's behavior. So you may believe that if you cook a meal, the other person should clean the dishes. You believe that if someone asks you out on a date, then that person should also pay for the date. Also, you believe that if you open a door, the person passing through the door should say thank you or in some way acknowledge you for doing a favor for them. What you have to understand is that those are your standards. It may not be the other person's standards. What's happened is that you've never had a conversation where you express your expectations of the other person. So you're mad and they're not because they have no clue that this is what's expected of them. And just a tip, if you're going on a date with someone, always make sure you have enough money to cover yourself and for the cab ride /Uber/Lyft home. Another component of bad communication is telepathy, what's called mind reading. This is when you go to your partner and you're angry and they ask you what's wrong and you simply say, you should know why I'm mad. You should know why I'm unhappy. And when they don't have a clue, then instead of opening up and communicating, you tell them that you should figure it out. Don't act like you don't know what's wrong. How? How could they not act like they don't know what's wrong when they don't know what's wrong? You expect someone to know your thoughts and feelings without any input from you. You're unhappy or mad, but you want them to fix it. Babies can't communicate, so you have no choice but to do guesswork when you're working with them. So if the baby is crying, you don't know if the baby is crying because the baby's cold, the baby's hot, the baby's wet, the baby's in pain, the baby's hungry, or the baby simply wants to be held. You don't know. You're not a mind reader and neither is your partner. Another component of bad communication, being disrespectful. And that could be done in so many ways using communication. First up is the silent treatment. The silent treatment is a device where you ignore your partner or you give them low to no communication. Basically, it's an immature way of manipulation. The next part of being disrespectful is watching that body language. So if somebody comes to communicate with you, your body language is like rolling your eyes or huffing or sighing or looking bored or being distracted, answering messages on your phone or texting someone on your phone, giving them mean looks or just sitting back with crossed arms. Another way you can be disrespectful is verbally disrespectful. That means using your words to demean someone, which is humiliating them either alone or around other people. Maybe you answer them with sarcasm, or maybe you use high-level vocabulary where you're talking and basically the other person needs a dictionary to keep up. Also, you can demean someone by using their vulnerabilities against them. Another way to verbally disrespect someone is disempowering them. So maybe you're name calling them. So maybe you overtalk them when they speak. Or maybe you literally just cut them off before they can even utter their responses. Once again, it's disempowering, it's to make them feel bad. Another way verbal disrespect occurs is when you threaten them. So maybe you're threatening physical abuse if the conversation continues. Maybe you're threatening to leave the relationship if the conversation continues. The goal of using disrespectful communication is to either to manipulate them, or the goal is to make them feel less than you. This is where you're trying to put yourself in a position of power over them. Or the goal could just be as basic as revenge. You feel bad, so you want them to feel worse. Once again, instead of a win-win, you're making it a win-lose where you win and they lose. The pillar of communication is important to relationship because it's the means by which you can relay standards, expectations, deal breakers, boundaries, and consequences. It's important to practice good communication skills, being open-minded, empathetic, being an active listener, being respectful, whether you're the listener or the speaker, and trying to decrease bad communication skills like being closed-minded, being deceptive, carrying covert contracts, assuming that someone is telepathic, or just straight up being disrespectful. The key to becoming a better communicator is to practice and do more practice. And you want to do this practice during the good times so that when conflicts do arise, and they will arise, you're more likely to use your good communication skills rather than fall back on some of the bad skills which you may possess. Communication is a great way to build that foundation of trust. Well, that's it for this video. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face, tell me that you love me.